City of Ranger Fire Chief and President of the City Fire Chiefs Association. First, I would like to thank the Commission for providing this forum and allowing various viewpoints to be heard. The public sector service area, particularly the fire service, are filled with capable, effective people. The number one draw for that is the retirement benefits package. Without it, many of these people would pursue other career paths, and it is used as a major recruitment tool. The city public employees are typically paid much less than the Southeast, let alone the nation, and have performed admirably over time under very adverse conditions. The actions of this board, along with subsequent actions of the legislature, have potential to greatly reduce the recruitment of qualified people in the public sector. The governor spoke in his memo of unsustainable benefit enhancement and economic downturn as justification for these studies. The studies per se are not a bad thing. However, they should be performed under a full spectrum. It appears to the fire chiefs of Mississippi that normal benefit costs of the system are approximately 1.3%. Employees can currently contribute 9%, and our employers contribute 12 whatever it is percent. That's around 21%. The adjustments have also included an extension in time served from 25 to 30 years. Just for the record, I'm not aware or sure how many firefighters can live 30 years on a fire truck. But that's a story for another day. Many looked at Wisconsin and the issues that they had over the summer. For our research, that system began with a 50-50 match between the employees and the employers. However, through negotiations, it became a taxpayer-funded system with little, if any, contributions from the employees. Mississippi's situation appears far different, as we've covered. Additionally, many of the unfunded liabilities are people like me who can retire but choose to continue to work, or those who are vested and yet remain working. Unlike a business, the chances of the city, the county, or the state going bankrupt are extremely remote. Therefore, people are shown the roles but are not likely to collect all at once. In closing, I would ask that prior to making great changes to this system, PERS, that will affect our ability to attract and retain bright, skilled emergency service employees, you would consider meshing all retirement packages together that are managed by the public retiree system. Thank you for your time and your service to the state of Mississippi.
Madeline Brown here, Jackson.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this opportunity to speak today. I am Tim Medley, and I'm here for a couple of reasons that I feel qualified to make a couple of statements. First, I'm in the investment advisory business. I'll direct all of my comments toward the investment management of the system. Our firm manages about $360 million as an investment advisor. And secondly, sometime around 2007, I served for approximately 18 months in the capacity of an unexpired term for the PERS system as a non-voting member. There were, I think, 3 of us that were non-voting members, so I got a chance to observe the Board of Trustees during that time period. So I'll make 3 observations. First, I think the state retirement plan is underfunded. I am aware that the staff at PERS takes exception to this. There have been a number of publications, national publications, which have said that Mississippi's system is underfunded. Forbes magazine has done a couple of stories on this, looking at all of the states. And 2 weeks ago, Barron's addressed this, and in this publication said that Mississippi was 67% funded in regard to its state pension plan. So I do think we have a problem. The second observation I would note about that is that this assumed rate of return of 8% is, I'll say, ambitious. Berkshire Hathaway, which is run by Warren Buffett, has a couple of companies that have a defined benefit pension plan. They use an actuarial rate of 6.9%. The other two suggestions I want to make have to do with how the money should be managed. The first point I would make is that the governing board needs to have more investment professionals. We presently, of the 10 members of the board of trustees, there are 2 people that have an investment background. In a couple of months, there will only be 1 person of the 10 that has an investment background. So, Mr. Alberts, when you look at other states, and I know you have, if you look at Washington State, for example, which is 99% funded, they have 10 voting members and 5 non-voting members. Those 5 non-voting members all have an investment background. If you look at North Carolina has an investment advisory committee. It meets 4 times a year. It has 6 members. 5 of those members have an extensive investment background. The last point I want to make is that we should, and I'll have to speak quicker, is that we should increase the funding for the investment department. The state of Mississippi has one chartered financial analyst to manage $20 billion. I know they use outside consultants, but they have 1 investment consultant. Washington State, they have a lot more money, but they have 75 investment consultants. PERS should have at least 10 investment consultants. This would really not cost very much money. If you had 10 investment consultants, the cost would be about $2 million a year. That is not 1% of the fund. It's not a tenth of 1% of the fund. It's 1/100th of 1%. So if by hiring these investment consultants, you could increase the rate of return by 0.5% a year, the payback every year would be 50 to 1.
Thank you. From the Mississippi Retired Public Employees Association, we have Sam Valentine, Power Guard.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you today. You've heard from a lot of folks about who we are as state employees and retirees, and you've heard about some of the responsibilities and the headaches and heartaches that our employees have, especially those at the state hospital over there in Ramsey County. Tough job. You know, when I look at this group out here, this group up here, most of us can read and write because of school teaching. I thank God for that. But at the same time, the school teachers that taught me versus the school teachers of today have different challenges today. They work harder, but their income is probably not much better than it was when they were teaching. And we've got a lot of those folks in our association. We represent, as retired public employees, not only teachers, we represent folks who work in maintenance crews in the highways, we represent doctors out of state, out of the University Medical Center, nurses that work out there, people that care for folks, the jobs that most of us wouldn't want to do, wouldn't know how to, real important jobs in the state of Mississippi. So we have a broad membership, some 86,000 people out there who are retired and I'm representing today. We want to say a couple of things to you that we feel very strongly about. I understand that some of you think there's no preconceived plan. We think there is. We think y'all are headed to straight to recommend defined contribution plans you can go. And we want to tell you we oppose that. You've already heard it from some of these other organizations. I noticed that during the last session of legislation, many members of the Senate were saying to us, oh, but it's not going to affect your retirement benefits. So you're going to get what you're supposed to get. But at the same time, I talk to people who know and ask the question, if we reduce this thing to a defined contribution plan, will it weaken our system? The answer is yes. And 10 years down the road, you guys will be back doing your important job, and I appreciate your dedication to our state coming up here. You'll be somewhere else. A lot of the legislators will be somewhere else. And somebody will be saying to Sam and all these other retirees out here, sorry folks, You're out of money because we changed this thing to the defined contribution plan and you're out of luck. We're going to have to reduce your benefits. We're sorry. This is not Social Security, Mr. Chairman. I understand you will probably say that. It's not Social Security. If you and I go to Washington today and ask them, where's the money? I've been paying into Social Security since I was 17 years old. They couldn't show it to us. But at least we got money in the bank across the street over there. And we've got a good vote. Let me tell you that. You said it, and you said it well. We've got a mighty good vote. You got one sitting right there to your right. We're talking about back here. We as retirees trust this voter. We trust them. Believe it. We don't know who else we trust. We trust them. And we believe that they can work this problem out. Given the opportunity, they can work it out. Sure, we've got an unfunded pension liability problem, but it can be addressed. I know the time's running out. I just want to tell you one thing. We've got a good governor as far as his expertise as a politician. He is a superb lobbyist. We know he's coming after us with this plan. We know what he wants. And we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to let the retirees of the state know what it really means. Thank you very much.
Did you have anyone else to sign up? Thank you. Jason Taylor, Mississippi Center for Public Policy.
Hi, I'm Jameson Taylor. I'm Vice President of Policy with the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm going to abandon my prepared remarks and kind of just summarize a little bit of what I've been hearing and speak to some of that. In particular, I wanted to talk about three principles. One, transparency. Anyone who's familiar with our work know that we are an advocate for transparency for all taxpayers and for government. Two, limited government. And three, fairness for both retirees and other taxpayers. Getting to the transparency, I've heard retirees express concern. Organizations are getting phone calls. People don't know what's going to happen to their retirement. And the thing that I wonder is, why not? Why aren't there quarterly reports, annual reports to retirees and others, letting people know exactly what shape the retirement system is in? For instance, we hear about the unfunded liability. Well, how much is it? How much does the state say it is? Then how much do private sector accountants, experts in the financial industry, how much do they say it is? Some reports that I've seen said that the retirement system was $50 billion underfunded as of December 2008. That is almost 6 years of tax revenue for the state of Mississippi. So I think that retirees deserve to know exactly what's going on with their system. They need transparency. They need annual reports that look at not only how much the PERS system is calculating what the unfunded liability is, but what the private sector accountants are saying as well. Second, I wanted to speak to the idea of limited government. We hear that we have a great system, we don't want it to change. But if we have a $50 billion unfunded liability, it has to change. Something is going to have to change. We've seen the state budget increase by more than 30% over the last 6 years. So another question I have is that something that can change? Can we reduce spending? Can we reduce obligations on behalf of the state? Can we reduce public sector hiring so that we can reduce these obligations for the pension plan? Finally, I wanted to talk about fairness for retirees and all taxpayers. And toward that end, I think we just need more dialogue, exactly like what's going on here today. More dialogue about the state of the pension plan and how we're going to make it better. Because it's clear that some things do need to change. What I would suggest is this. One, expanding membership of the PERS board to include 4 additional members who are not participants in the retirement system. And this should include at a minimum One person is a certified actuarial, and second, a certified retirement investment planner. Second, I'd say let's increase transparency. Let's give retirees these annual reports on what the actual status of their system is. Thank you very much.
Barry Perry from the City Council in Meridian. Barry.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board, and others. I like to say that I am not against PERS. I love it. It is something that we need and that we always look forward to. But there is a problem, and the problem is, a few years ago, when PERS said we got our money, I came to several people in that organization and asked if you would consider letting the persons who are elected as former teachers that I taught 38 years in the state of Mississippi and enjoyed every minute of it, even though I had no pay. I ask if you would please let those teachers who are making 1/4 of the average compensation with which they have retired give to that fund and put it in a contingency fund and not reallocate money to them because they're contributing. I said that for a number of 3 years, and then I asked last year if this were when are you going to consider doing that? And I was told we are doing it. And I found out that it was started in July of last year. I take home less than $7,000 a year. Our city pays $20,000 to council persons. We have another council person who takes home less than $400 a month. And can you live off of $400 a month? This is because he retired earlier than I did. And when you average out the last 4 highest years, you have very little. And when you get 1/4 of that, it ends up being about $400 a month. So, with this in mind, I called and asked, I went back and found that we are taking the $20,000 allotment as if I were doing that and putting it in a contingency fund, which gives PERS the money that they had asked for. And before it was, if we take this money, we will ruin the formula. By putting it in a contingency fund, it does nothing to the formula. It just lets that money be there when you need it. And we are not recompensated for that money. And that was the choice I said. If teachers don't want to do that, then let them keep drawing their 1/4. But if they're willing to let it go into a contingency fund, then let them draw their salaries. After all, we pay into our salaries, and all companies do. They have a share that they put in. So our system also paid into our share, as the state had done earlier. But the one thing is, we are penalized. So now I'm asking if you will consider letting this happen, and when you do, be sure that we don't mind losing that money, and we don't mind not being recompensated, but we do want to be treated fairly, and if the city pay the salary, because after all, PERS does not pay the salary. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
Any more discussion? I've noticed some members of the trustees, board of trustees, and PERS that are in the room. I like all of them. Anyone, we have one of the chairman. Anyone else representing the board in the room, like to stand and recognize. We appreciate it, sir.
I'm not sure. I need to let that happen. I'm Butch McCullough. I'm acting state employee.
I'm Roger Ballou, and I represent the retirees, and I spent 39 years in the public schools in Mississippi.
We
My
appreciate
first salary was $2,000 a year.
it. We appreciate you, sir.
CPA, so I know what a balance sheet looks like.
Okay. I've seen some members of the legislature as well who would like to understand and be recognized.
I'm representing the budget from Monroe County. Representing Bob Evans from Lawrence County.
Representing Harvey Cunningham in Mark County.
Representative Ray Patton from District 115.
Representative-elect Charles Allen Jr. from District 52.
I want to thank those of you who stood. We have 4 members of the legislature who said that they're not members of this committee, and would remind you that those that stood as long, and also the board that they serve on, or the legislature that they're a part of, will be the decision-making body if there is anything that needs to be done in the way of correction. Also, I'd like for Rebecca Staples to stand and again cite to you, if you'll get your pencil out, how to continue to communicate with this committee as we move forward in this study process. Would you please do that?
We have more information available online. You can go to www.governorbarber, just to spell that GOVERNORBARBOUR.com. That takes you to the home page where you can click on a button called PERS Study Commission, and you can get a lot more information about the commission, activities, meetings. We also have an email address if you have questions or comments, and that is rather lengthy, state email address. So it's retirement study, and that's all one word. So retirement study at Governor, GOVERNOR.state.ms.us. So the full email address is retirementstudy@governor.state.ms.us. That email address is online at the website I just referenced. We also have a phone number. I'm happy to share that. It's 601-359-3150. And if you'd like to submit written comments, you can send it to the email address, or you can send it through snail mail or hard copy. And our mailing address is online, but at that address, you just send it to the attention of PERS Study Commission. And that address is P.O. Box 139, Jackson, Mississippi 39201. But all of that information I just shared with you is online if you go to governorbarber.com and click on PERS Study Commission. Thanks.
Thank you. In responses that you give, either by telephone, by email, in writing, or any form, we would encourage you to give us information on anything that you think might be right or wrong with the system that needs to be looked at. We will take your suggestions very seriously, right or wrong. If you know of some system, of some situation within the system, whether that be an individual payout or whatever that's incorrect, please call that to our attention, because that's part of what we're doing with the audit. And those minor changes might very well be the limit of what needs to be done in order to steer this program into long-term sustainability. I would ask you to, all of you who came in the room, if you did not sign in on the sign-in sheet at the back, please do so, because we'll be communicating with some of those before you leave. I would ask the members of the commission for any comments that you'd like to make before I give some closing remarks. Want to start this in this time?
I want to thank you for participating.
I too want to thank you for participating. There's a question that's pending about whether there will be another session like this. We did not have anything to report to you today because we're just starting. The only action we've taken so far is to hire the consultant. The second action was to hear from you today. When this commission has something to report, we will be happy to make that report, and we'll be happy if it's the will of the commission to have another session like this to give you a chance to react to the report before it becomes final. We'll take that in the course of events. I will tell you that if we do so, it will take place within the next 6 weeks, so it will be very quickly. We do not want to do anything that's going to cause rhetoric that's going to influence in any way the politicians that are being elected in the November election, and that's why we'll make our report after that election is over. You've cited to us today a number of points that are very valid. We appreciate that input. We will tell you from the study that the commission has done and from the work that we've received from Ms. Pat Robertson, who has come in to one of our meetings to tell us some of the issues that PERS is facing, that the list is very long. We confirm that the system we have in Mississippi is one of the outstanding systems in the country. But we would remind you that we're currently in one of this nation's 33 recessions since the nation began. This happens to be the longest and deepest recession that we've had other than the Great Depression of the 30s. We can't ignore that fact. One of the challenges that PERS is facing is assumptions about what the economy is doing and is going to do. And you heard testimony to that effect. What the PERS board has made an assumption on is that the economy will continue to produce an 8% return. We wonder whether or not that needs to be looked at as a challenge. What does an 8% return do? An 8% return enables the PERS committee to duplicate, in other words, double its total resources every 9 years. What if we don't get 8%? What would happen if we only got 3%? Then to double the reserves of the fund would take 24 years. Is that a valid question to ask? We think that's a challenge that needs to be faced. We don't know how long we're going to be in this recession, but we know that it is a deep one, and we want to make sure that if we have to make some different assessments or different assumptions, that we do it early enough to time to recoup so that we do not damage the long-range sustainability of the fund, and that's part of what this study commission will do. We also recognize that in this downturn, a number of employees have been laid off, and those are not just in the public and private sector. A number of city, county, and state employees are no longer on the payroll. What does that do? That means the income into PERS also goes down. Would have to be replaced for those future assumptions. Probably the most comment that the study committee is getting is what is PERS already doing and what are some of the things that are on the table. We would tell you that PERS trustees as well as the legislature has taken some steps recently to look at some corrective measures, and we think those are positive. They increased the employees' pay contribution from 7.25% to 9%. That's a healthy move in this day of time when we're having the recession that we're having. The PERS board has also increased the vesting period and the retirement age for new employees coming into the system, which looks like a prudent step to take, and we congratulate them on doing that. The PERS trustees have implemented stricter provisions to help curb the double dipping that takes place within the system, where people go into 2 retirement checks rather than just 1. And that's already had some correction on that, and the study commission would say that we recognize that the trustees are looking hard at the long-range sustainability. But probably the biggest question we get, and the biggest question that some of you in this room have, is the quote, 13th check. And that needs to be looked at. Why does it need to be looked at? Well, Mr. Robinson's report tells us that this year in payouts for PERS, $1.5 billion will be paid out to retirees. Of that $1.5 billion, $409 million is the quote 13th check. That is a big portion of what's being paid out. Does it need to be looked at? Yes. Does it need to be changed? We don't know. But looking at it, we think would be a prudent thing to do. Not to cut it out, but to look at the foundation of what makes up the $409 million for the $1.5 billion payout. And that's why we're doing what we're doing as a study commission. Again, the decisions will not be this commission's. It will be the decision of the trustees and the legislature and the new administration that's elected in November. Please again sign in before you leave. Please continue to communicate with us. We'll continue to communicate with you, and our report will be published by November the 15th. Thank you so much for being